Ideology, culture, and language are also closely interrelated. They formulate an important aspect of our language learning as well. Ideology may be defined as a set of assumptions, beliefs, value systems which are shared collectively by various social groups. Simply speaking, we can say ideology is some collective aspects or the essence of our society, which is usually reflected by various belief systems, various rituals or cultural items of a society. So, ideologies overall reflect of the face of a society. All these aspects which formulate the essence of the ideology of a society, they are usually influenced by the language. They are not only expressed through the language, but they are also influenced by the use of language. The kind of language which is being used by a society has a deep impact on the ideology that society adheres to. And for this matter, you could see a very popular Sapir-Whorf hypothesis for further studies, and also look into the concepts like linguistic determinism, which believes that language determines thought, or linguistic relativity, which means or which implies that language influences our social thinking, our way of living. So you could see all these things in detail in order to know the relationship between language and ideology. This relationship has also been explored by some recent researchers by using the methodology of critical discourse analysis, in which various exponent and the researchers of this theory, they focus on looking into the relationship between language and power and ideologies. One of the important figures in this regard, Fairclough, he argues that ideologies are acquired, expressed and enacted with the help of language. They are not only transmitted from one community to another, from one person to another, but they are also enacted and practiced through the language. So ideology is not something which is kept in a showcase for public viewing only. It is also expressed, and through the expression of the ideology, it is furthered, it is enhanced or enforced upon others as well. He further contended that any variable structure of language is ideologically marked. Language itself is loaded with various ideology. The words we choose in a particular language has or may have a certain ideological background. For example, in order to reflect the terms of relationship in our culture, have that ideology which is followed in our culture. We have different terms of endearment to address our near and dear ones. We have different terms for our relationships, which are quite different from the terms used in the West. So the terms used in the West reflect their ideology, and the terms used in our culture, they reflect our ideology. So language and ideology are closely interconnected. When it comes to ELT, it's very important that we as language instructors and language learners do understand the relationship between language and ideology. And we are also able to make our students understand this relationship. In this situation, a second language, especially when it is so as powerful as English is, it would pose a little threat to their identity and their own ideological background. Otherwise, such powerful languages may have deeper influences on the personality and ideology of the learners. A language is formed by culture, while culture is influenced by language. That is a similar view. We do have language as an important component of culture, and therefore it also influences our way of living, our way of thinking, and our way of understanding things. Without language, culture cannot be completely acquired, nor it can be effectively expressed or transmitted to others. This I have mentioned already, that culture could not be understood properly if we do not have access to the language of that culture. For example, if we are interested in knowing the culture of English-speaking countries or the European countries where English is spoken as a native language, we would need English language in order to know that culture. If we do not know English properly, we will find it very difficult to understand the culture of those societies and the ways of thinking of those societies. So language is a gateway to the culture of various nations. Thus culture, we might say that culture shapes languages and languages are shaped by the culture. So again, this relation is bidirectional. Language have influences on various cultures, shapes our way of thinking, thoughts, already acquired knowledge, and culture also shapes the language. Every language has some taste of the culture in which it grows. For example, if you look at the growth of English in various ESL and EFL contexts, you would see that the English spoken in these territories, it has some local taste as well. It is not the same language which is spoken in England or America, which are the lands of native speakers, but the Englishes which are spoken in Pakistan, India, or Sri Lanka, or many other ESL and EFL contexts, they have so many local influences from vocabulary to syntax. So we can conclude that language definitely influences culture, and culture might influence the language. It may be a powerful language similar to English. Language does not exist apart from culture. We have already discussed it. Language lives in a culture and have a deep influences of a culture, and it is also a key to the cultural past of a society and a guide to social reality. So language helps us know the present and the past of a culture where it grows. We can have the example in form of various immigrants who travel to America for various reasons and settle down there, and still people believe that they are associated with their own native languages which they brought with themselves from their native lands. So they have developed new speech communities where though they have assimilated to English language and culture, but they also have added the flavor of their own local culture or previous languages, and they have developed new communities. Therefore, we can conclude that language and culture have a bidirectional relationship, and they both influence ideology of the people and the learners who learn a particular language during their learning process. So in an ELT classroom, the relationship between language, ideology, and culture should be discussed, and students must be asked to understand this relationship so that their learning process may be facilitated.